Hello, this is Lori with Rock & Co Crafts. I want to thank you for joining me. So before I get to today's project, I wanted to mention that it dawned on me yesterday that even though it's a little bit after the fact, that this channel has been up and running for a little over 6 months, and that's at the time of videoing this. And I have approximately 70 videos out there. I want to thank the 297 subscribers that I have. Thank you so much. And I want to thank all of those who watch. Y'all don't realize just how much you help to motivate me. And I realize that my setup is nothing real fancy. But what I lack in fancy, I definitely have in love and passion for this craft. And I hope to continue to improve for each project. Now, with all that mushy stuff out of the way, let's talk about today's project. Yes, I want to pour the turtle again. I realized that I just recently poured it in the Rockin' Turtle, and if you haven't seen that video, I will link that in the description box below. But this is the Let's Resin Turtle, and I think this little critter bug is so cute. And I do want to pour it again, only not using rocks this time. Let's do something different. Now, when I first started, not at the very beginning, but after I played with just some clear resin and stuff for a little bit, I did buy a few kits. And one of the things that came in one of the kits were these iridescent flakes. Now I have, let's see, there's pink, there's yellow, purple, green, and blue, and they're just hues of these colors. Now I have used them a little bit in making like UV jewelry, and I do believe I did a video on that, making resin and UV resin jewelry. I'll find that video and I will link that also in the description box below. Now this turtle holds 240 milliliters according to my water measurements. So what I want to do is I'm going to only pour like 100, then 100, and then probably 40 or 50, however much it takes, because generally speaking, my water measurements are a little bit off. But because I do use a 1-to-1 resin, it does recommend that you don't pour it too deep, and I don't want to flash cure. So what I've done is I have mixed up 100 milliliters of resin. I have that in my little sparkly reusable, or I reuse it. This is my glitter cup because I don't want these iridescent flakes to stick to my mixing cup for fear that I'll get it in another project that I don't want it in. But all I want to do, and I have learned that a little goes a long way. So I'm just going to actually mix these colors. So let me see if I can put some of the hues of pink. I don't want to put too much, and I'll give it a stir and see what I think. Let's do some hues of yellow. Here's purple. Yeah, it's open. It's hard to tell. Let's see if we can get some of that purple out. Just a whole bunch of rainbowish kind of colors. Oh, that's a lot of purple, y'all. Some green and some blue. I'm going to set these packages out of the way so I don't spill them all over. And give it a stir. And I will mix the same exact colors for the second pour. But on the third pour, I think what I am going to do is I am going to actually mix some of the black epoxy resin pigment paste, that's less resin pigment paste, in the last pour and kind of back this with black. I mean, I tossed and turned trying to decide if I wanted it just all clear or if I wanted to back it with black, but I know that black tends to give it some pop, but I'm hoping it'll pop because there's going to be areas that the black's not going to show through. So that's what we have. It just looks like a rainbow of pretty colors. And I don't know. I mean, I do know. I do know that it doesn't show up on camera as much as I would like for it to. But I'm going to go ahead and get this poured. Let me see if I can do that without my hand right in your way. I'm going to get my hand in your way. Forgive me. I need to scrape the bottom of this. And yeah, I don't want to worry about any flash cures. And I have no idea what to expect. I mean, I have used this just like in UV resin for small pieces of jewelry, but I've never used it in a big piece. I mean, just looking down in there, I'll give you a peek see here in just a second. Let me set that down. I do need to spray for some bubbles, but just looking down in there, all the pretty bright colors, and I know that that light just gets in the way, doesn't it? But it's pretty and bright, and I'm hoping to get something like that, but when I back it in black, hopefully those colors will even pop more. So let me give it some thumps, and I am going to take my tool down in the head because I certainly don't want to have to worry about any bubbles. And I don't think it's filled it up to the tail, but let me check because that little tail on this little thing is so cute. No, it's not up to the tail yet, so I'm not going to worry about that just yet. But let me go ahead and kind of take my tool around just in case there's any bubbles on the side because I certainly don't want bubbles. Yo, that is so pretty. It is so pretty. I hope this turns out wonderful. All right, what I am going to do is, I don't know how long I'm going to wait between pours. I mean, I don't want a pour line, of course. I will just kind of try to fill it. And when it starts to cool off, I'll come back and we'll pour another 100 or so, probably about 100 milliliters, and then save the last 40 to mix with the black epoxy paste. So I will see you shortly. Right. First things first, I apologize. I had no idea that my glove was ripped until I got ready to take it off. So I do apologize for that distraction. Something else, about 35 to 40 minutes after the pour, I came and checked it and noticed the flakes were all congregating at the bottom. So I gave it a stir. It was nice and thick, and I gave it a stir. I'm hoping by doing that, I didn't mess anything up. But I kind of want the flakes everywhere, not just settled to the bottom. I didn't expect them to do that because they are so light, but they did. Anyhow, I do have another 100 milliliters of resin mix, and I've already put the flakes in there. I'm going to pour them in, and again, I'll watch it. As far as stirring it, I don't know. It's pretty thick on bottom already, so hopefully if I have to stir them, hopefully I'll be very careful so as not to scratch in between the layers. All right, so let's see. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to go up all the way like on the little legs of the turtle. But I don't know, maybe if I mix a little bit of the flakes with the black, which is something I wasn't originally thinking about doing, but I may do that just so there's some pretty colors up on the little turtle's leg. And I do want to this time take my tool in there. Let me see if I can turn it around a little bit, maybe give it some thumps. But I do want to take my tool into the little tail because I don't want any bubbles in there. And there's still a lot of room before I get up completely to the tail. But still want to check for bubbles in the head and the tail. So let me go down in here. I do see what appears to be a bubble. See if we can't get it out. Yeah, there's some bubbling going on in there. Let's see if we can't get them all out. Okay, I'm going to check the tail one more time. Okay, let me give it another thump or two. But y'all, that is so pretty. And I mean, it was an hour and a half. I let it set for an hour and a half before the second pour. But it was like 30 to 40 minutes when I went in there and gave it a stir because it was congregating on the bottom. And there still may be a big chunk of it on the bottom because I was afraid to stir it again after that because I really didn't want to mess it up too bad. And I hope I haven't messed it up. And I will think about between now and I'm going to let this set for 3 hours. Again, I'm going to watch this layer just to make sure the flakes don't all settle. But then I'm going to let it set for about 3 hours, and then I'll come back in with the black epoxy pigment paste. And I may go ahead and mix some of those flakes into that as well. I wasn't originally going to do that, but I kind of want some sparkle up in here too. Anyhow, those are my plans. Let me see here. It looks like it might have one more bubble up in here. We don't want that. There we go. All right. Well, I will see you when we're ready to pour the final coat. See you shortly. I'm back. I'm back because I just don't want to pour the black and then have those little black spots just kind of cut off. So I've mixed 40 milliliters and I've added some flakes. As long as I have enough room to pour a thin layer of black for doming, I'll be okay. But I really want this clear, sparkly stuff in the turtle's limbs. So hopefully this will do it. I hope. I hope this is enough. Because the more I sat there and thought about it, the more I thought, no, I really do want these little legs to look like the rest of the body, and then put a thin layer of the black. It's like I could use a little bit more up in here. And I'll scooch this stuff around here in a minute. Let me see if I can get it. Let me see if I can get it in there, and then I'll scooch around. And that should still leave. Apparently, it looks like it'll still leave plenty of room for me to dome it with the black pigment paste. Because I want to keep with the original picture that's in my head, even though oftentimes that doesn't turn out exactly the way I think. I certainly want to go through whatever I need to go through to make it happen, if possible. I'm just checking inside these little legs for bubbles. All right, y'all, now I feel a little bit better about it. Yeah, I feel a little bit better about it now. And that looks like, even though, yes, I have poured 240, again, I'll say that oftentimes my water measurements are a little off. I'm just going to check for bubbles down here because I didn't do that earlier. All right, I'm going to go ahead now. I'm going to let this set for 3 hours, and then we'll come back and dome it with the black pigment paste. So I'll see you shortly. We are ready for this last pour. Now, I did already mix the black pigment paste into the resin, and I mixed 40 milliliters. Just looking at this, it looks like 20 won't be enough. Now, 40 may be a little too much. I guess we'll see. Let's go ahead and get this poured. And I don't know if you can see in there just the different layers of flakes, but it sure looks pretty. Hopefully, it'll be absolutely beautiful when it's done. We'll see. Whoa, I need to slow down a little bit. I can get so heavy-handed. I don't want to have to deal with a bunch of overpour. Let me stop there for just a second and allow some of this to spread. I need to make sure it gets up underneath there where it's supposed to be. And I see some bubbles. Okay, yeah, there's still room, so I'm gonna go ahead and pour a little bit more. See if I can get just a little flow, not some heavy-handed giant flow. All right, I'm gonna stop there for a second. I'm gonna go ahead and use my dotting tool. I want to just check in the tail area. I think that that's all filled up, but just kind of want to make sure. Let's get up underneath here. Feels like that other stuff is still pretty soft under here. Hope I didn't just mess that one up, y'all. It's probably the same over here. Yeah, it's pretty soft under there still. Oh, goodness, I hope I didn't really mess that up real bad. Now, there's some unevenness going on. And it looks kind of the same thing there, but you know what, y'all? I am not going to force it up in there simply because it is still pretty soft, and I hope I didn't mess these parts up. It does look like it'll hold just a little bit more, so let me kind of clean up my messes and see if I can't get just a little bit more. I have some green stuff floating around there. Get a little bit more in here. Just a little bit. It looks like I'll have a little bit left over. Oh, I know where else I meant to check. I need to check by the head. Don't want an overflow. I'm just trying to go ever so carefully. Ever careful. Let's see here. Well, if that's not domed, it sure is close. Yeah, as far as I can tell, I don't want to take my tool in there very hard, but as far as I can tell, it's up underneath the tail as well. I mean, the head, excuse me. Got a fuzz stuck to my tool here. Well, that looks pretty domed. Possibly have a bubble right there. Don't want any bubbles. And I will just pour the rest of this black resin in a different mold. All right, well, I will see you in 24 hours for the unmolding. It is time for the unmolding. Before I unmold the turtle, the leftover black, what I decided to do was because I'd mentioned mixing some of the flakes in the black earlier, I went ahead and did that and poured a couple of small little molds. So, I mean, it's a good experiment because if it works out, I may decide to use this technique later on. So let's go ahead, and this is just the little dragon mold. I haven't poured this one in a long time. I'm trying to be very careful around that tail because I have broken at least one of those and I don't want to break it. So let me try and carefully get this out. All right, there we go. Well, that's the back side, and you can see there's a few flakes shining through. There are flakes throughout. That doesn't look bad at all. It definitely looks better than I expected. let me move this out of the way so maybe you can see it better. So that's the little dragon, and I did some of the cat faces and dog paws. So let's go ahead and pop these out and see if it made a big major difference in the smaller pieces. Oh, y'all, look at that. Get these turned over for you. That is actually pretty. I am just shocked as to how well that shows up in the black pigment paste. I have some trimming to do, but that turned out pretty, so I'm glad I experimented with that. But yeah, those are really pretty. Let me set those aside and let's get down to business. So here's the little turtle, and I want to see about loosening the sides first, and then working on the back, and then on my up toward the head. Right now, just a little peek in there sure looks pretty. Oh, I hope this turns out. I hope this turns out really, really well, like the picture in my head, or even better. We're almost there, y'all. We just have the head to go. I'm going to be careful here. I love this mold. And if you're interested in this mold or some of the other products I use, I will leave a link in the description box below. Let's go ahead, and I have a little bit of overpour, but that's not a big deal. Are we ready? Let's turn it over and see what we have. Oh, y'all, look at that. Oh, wow. I knew that the head would be completely clear. I don't have a problem with that, though. And I'll come back in and paint little eyes with just a fine tip acrylic paint pen. I like the way that looks, you guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. I mean, I think that turned out really well. I like the fact that it looks clear, but still that black backing brings out more color. I like the way this little critter bug turned out. Let me look at his tail. Oh, looky, you guys, I do have, look at that, I have bubble pits. That stinks. I do have some bubble pits back here. And one here. So there's a few bubble pits in him. But overall, I like the way he turned out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I do want to thank you for watching and ask you to consider hitting the like, share, and if you haven't already, the subscribe button. Thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.